There is an idea older than any book that survived long enough to tell it to you. It says a man is not built in comfort. He is built in the forge. Every tradition that came before the algorithm, before the self-help shelf, before anyone tried to sell you a shortcut, arrived at the same uncomfortable answer to the same question you have probably asked in the dark more than once. Why does it have to be this hard? They did not answer with sympathy. They answered with a furnace. 2,000 years ago, a man sat alone at night, writing to no one but himself. He was not a monk. He was not a philosopher by trade. He was an emperor, commanding armies on the frontier, burying children, watching plague move through his own city like fire through dry grass. His name was Marcus Aurelius, and the words he wrote were never meant for you. They were meant to keep himself standing. He had found something every Stoic before him had already found, and that you are circling right now without knowing its name. The world is divided into two piles: what is yours to control and what is not. The plague was not his to choose. The grief was not his to choose. The war was not his to choose. His response was the only thing that ever belonged to him. This was not a trick to make pain disappear. The Stoics were not interested in pretending difficulty does not exist. They were interested in something harder, taking whatever showed up and using it. There is an old Stoic phrase for this: amor fati, the love of fate. Not tolerating what happens to you, not enduring it through gritted teeth, treating it as exactly the material your character required, whether you asked for it or not. Travel east, centuries before Rome, and you find a prince who walked away from a palace because comfort had stopped answering his questions. He sat under a tree until he understood something that would outlast every empire built after him. His first teaching was not life can be made painless. His first teaching was that dissatisfaction is woven into existence itself. The old word for it is dukkha. He did not stop there. If he had, it would only be despair wearing the robes of wisdom. The path was never the elimination of difficulty. The path was a different relationship to it. There is a flower nearly every culture that has encountered it has reached for to explain this. The lotus does not grow despite the mud. It grows because of it. The mud is not the obstacle to the flower. The mud is the food. Further east still, an old text attributed to a man named Lao Tzu describes water. Water has no shape of its own. It yields to whatever it meets. And water is the only thing on earth patient enough to cut through stone. The Taoists had a phrase the West still gets wrong on a regular basis: Wu Wei. People hear it and think it means do nothing. Drift. Avoid. It means the opposite. Stop spending your strength fighting the current that will never bend for you, and put everything you have into the one current that will. The bamboo survives the storm because it bends. The oak that refuses to bend is the one you find on the ground the next morning. Aristotle taught in Athens that virtue is not a feeling you wait around for. It is a habit you build through repetition, the same way a man becomes a builder by building, not by feeling like one first. Character is not decided in the one dramatic moment everyone imagines. It is decided in the 1,000 small repetitions nobody is watching. Discipline, then, was never punishment. It is just the architecture of a habit, repeated until it becomes who you are without you having to decide it again every morning. In the 20th century, a Swiss psychiatrist named Carl Jung went looking through the writings of medieval alchemists, expecting to find superstition. He found a map of the human psyche instead. The alchemists believed that before you could produce gold, The raw material had to pass through a stage called the nigredo, the blackening. It looked like failure. It looked like rot. It looked like the entire process had gone wrong. It was not going wrong. It was the only way the material could be broken down enough to become something else. Jung saw the same pattern in every man who came to him in crisis. The parts of yourself you have spent years running from, the rage, the shame, the grief you never let finish. Jung called this the shadow, not because it is evil, because it lives in the unlit room of who you are. And here is the part most men never get told. What you refuse to face does not disappear. It follows you. It just stops looking like pain and starts looking like repetition. The same fight with a different woman, the same collapse with a different excuse, the same wall you keep finding no matter how many times you change the road. That is not bad luck. That is the unmet shadow asking to be let into the room. Every culture on Earth tells some version of the same story, and none of them needed to compare notes to arrive at it. A man does not become himself in the comfortable village. He becomes himself in the belly of the whale, in the underworld, in the desert, in the cave he was too afraid to enter. Jonah, Hercules, Odysseus, the Buddha under the tree, the knight in the dark wood with no map. The return only exists because the descent happened first. There is no version of this story, in any tradition, anywhere, where the hero skips the dark and arrives at the treasure anyway. The Stoics had a strange-sounding practice. They would deliberately imagine the worst version of tomorrow. The loss, the failure, the death of people they loved. Not to suffer in advance, to rehearse it so it lost its power to ambush them. They called this premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. It sounds morbid until you realize what it actually does. It takes fear out of the dark, where it grows enormous, and puts it in the light, where you can finally see its actual size. The Buddhist teaching arrived at something close from a different direction. Nothing you have was ever permanently yours. This is not despair. It is the thing that lets you hold what you have without your knuckles turning white around it. Courage, in both traditions, was never the absence of fear. It is what is left after you have looked directly at the thing you were afraid to look at. So if you are in it right now, if the floor has dropped out from under something you thought was solid, here is what every one of these traditions would tell you, in their own language, arriving at the same place. Stop asking, why is this happening to me? Start asking, what does this require of me? Name what is actually happening. Plainly, without the performance of how unfair it is. Then do the smaller thing, the disciplined, repeated, unglamorous thing. The old word for this kind of training was ascesis. It never meant punishment. It meant practice, the kind that shapes a man slowly, the way water shapes stone, without either of them noticing the day it actually changed. Iron does not choose the forge, but it decides, in some sense none of us fully understand until we are standing in it, what it becomes inside the fire. You did not choose what found you this year. Almost no one does. But the blackening is not the end of the process. It is the only beginning that was ever available to you. This has been Ancient Mind Lab. Ancient wisdom, decoded for the modern mind. If this found you in the middle of your own forge, you are exactly where you were supposed to be.